We boarded the ship. We opened the safe. We took away all their money.
So what did taking away their money have to do with the war?
Punishment. It was all down to punishment.
Are they very
they had to be punished.
But what were they being punished for?
For destroying the sea.
You've talked about how, particularly in the UK, there was a substantial group, community, multi-generational community of working class entrepreneurs at sea that we now know as invisible pirates, who then sort of moved into shipping and helped sort of fuel industrialism, and then sort of led more quote-unquote legal lives or conventional mainstream lives in terms of the transactions they were doing and the industries they were in. So does that mean that there just aren't that many pirates anymore? Or does that mean that there are still loads of pirates out there? And if there are still loads of pirates out there, what are they doing?
Well, that is a very, very wide question. When you say that sitting here in London in the UK, it's difficult to imagine what is going on in the Celebes Sea or the Sulu Sea or Indonesia or Malaysia or Borneo, where they are probably more active than you would imagine. But the activities there, I mean, let's take the Sulu pirates. Mm-hmm. I love these guys. I met these guys. I met their chief, and they are absolutely wonderful. Their main aim in life is ecological. They are there to protect their sea that they have protected for thousands of years, and nothing is going to stop them doing it. And I've assisted them, and they're just great guys.
And whereabouts in the world is that again?
Sulu. It's between the Philippines and Brunei. Mm-hmm. Okay, between the Philippines and Malaysia. For hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, they operated a barter system, the whole area. And barter system is, I'm going to give you these dozen cups, and you give me a sack of rice. That's barter system. No receipts, no trace, nothing. Invisible, like the invisible pirate. All of a sudden, Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, Indonesia got together and they said, oh, we got to stop this because a barter system means nobody's paying any tax. And we need tax. So they outlawed it. And it got outlawed for about 20 years. And in this 20 years, the pirates, especially the Zulu pirates, did some heavy stuff, some light stuff, some progressive stuff, some political stuff. And eventually, a few years ago, all the governments decided to allow them to continue the barter system, which is a win. It is a win, win, win. And today, you can go to places like Zamboanga, and you can walk into Zamboanga, and you can exchange a sack of rice for, 5 cases of beer, or whatever is being transacted. That's how it works. Mm-hmm. Without paying any tax or anything like that. No receipts, nothing, you just exchange it. And this is operated by the Zulu pirates. And they are magic people, very magic people. They live on the sea. Their entire life has always been on the sea. Even though they've got islands, they build buildings out on stilts into the sea to be always on the sea. When here, 20 metres away, they could live on the land. No, they've got to live on the sea because they are part of the sea. So when I had that, we were talking about the Flying Dog pirate base. We had a request from the Zulu pirates to set up a meeting, which we did, because there was an Indonesian ship that was sailing between China and Indonesia. It was a tanker. And every time it went through the Sulu and Celebes seas, it washed the tanks. You know, if you carry in diesel and then next you're going to use some other oil, you had to wash the tanks before you loaded the next. And they would do this in the Celebes Sea because to do it in the designated port area costs anything from $5,000 to $25,000, depends how big the tanks are. So to save this money, they were doing it at sea, causing oil slicks and damage to the ecosystem. The Sulu pirates came to us. We set up a meeting. There were the Taiwanese, the Philippines, the Zulus, and I think the Koreans weren't involved, but they sent somebody. We organised an attack on the ship. The ship was attacked. I was responsible for the attack. The ship was attacked.
And in being responsible for the attack, what does that entail, Tonz?
Planning.
Okay.
I was in charge of planning, and it all went to plan. So they stopped the ship.
Can you tell us any elements of that plan?
Yeah, it was simply a warning. It was simply a plan to warn these that you do this again, it'll be the last thing you ever do.
And how does that work beyond the telephone
Well,
call?
we stopped the ship, boarded the ship.
And you're at this. I know you planned it.
I wasn't on the ship.
Yeah.
I was very close.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually physically on the ship, but I could see everything that was going on.
And were the people who were on the ship?
There were 7 crew on the
were,
ship.
Were they armed?
No, there was just 7 crew members and the captain and a chief engineer and 5 crew members.
Okay. And you didn't think that they needed weapons?
No, not really. We were armed.
So you were armed and observing.
We boarded the ship.
Mm-hmm.
I said I wasn't personally involved in boarding the ship.
Right.
I remained on our ship.
Right.
So was this sort of like a boarding the ship to let them know what could happen?
We boarded the ship. We opened the safe. We took away all their money.
So what did taking away their money have to do with the warning?
Punishment. It was all down to punishment.
Are they very like, yeah,
They
okay.
had to be punished
But what were they being punished for?
for destroying the sea, for ecologically damaging.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
the sea.
it's like reparations. I see. Okay.
They were doing this once a month. They had been noticed to do this in one particular area every month on their way to China. And so we decided to go there, stop them, and teach them a lesson. So we managed to open the safe, took away all their money. They were Indonesian, but they had whiskey and beer on board, took that away. We took off all their rings, all their gold, everything they had of any value, we took that off. And all of that together was just about enough to pay for the operation. Telling them that if you do this again, we won't take away your money and gold. It will be you who will go missing. They never did it again. Of course, when they got back to Indonesia, there's the local television and the story, or they were boarded by pirates, because they never mentioned, because they're Muslims, they never mentioned the beer and whiskey that went missing and everything else. But their story, and they never mentioned the reason they were attacked is because they were pouring their filth into the Celebes Sea that's owned by the Sulu pirates.
And that to me is the sort of definition of what you said before about the difference in big bad and little bad. You did maybe a little bad because they were doing a big bad.
They were doing big bad, because you don't realise that when you're washing the tank, you've got the oil residue is going into the sea, plus the chemicals for the washing is going into the sea, and this is killing stuff. This is destroying a pristine sea, which is beautiful. And they're doing it every month, so it had to be stopped. The Zulus wanted it stopped. They operate canoes. They would have had difficulty in attacking this ship with a canoe, even though they're brilliant with canoes. Their main advantage, the Zulus, is becoming invisible. They can become completely invisible. Their canoes usually has 22 rowers, and the captain.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, a lot, very long.
Yeah.
22 rowers, one each side, right? 22 of them. The captain stands in the front. He commands the ship with his little fingers that are down by his side.
Yeah.
And his little fingers will command that boat he can make that boat do anything he wants. And then when they need to either attack or disappear, they have a way, because they're so low in the water, have a way with the waves of becoming invisible. They attacked a place in the south of the Philippines. The congressman asked me to speak to a general, Philippine general, who asked me to assist them because they needed to know where these pirates went to. I went to Zamboanga and I pretended to be stupid, and I said, "I'm sorry, General, but I don't know, mate." But I knew exactly where they went. I'm not going to tell him, am I? They were so good. They are so good. Brilliant. And they're there today. You know, we're not talking about something that happened in the 18th century. They're there today doing what they've always done. And they are really wonderful guys.
But don't you have a story on the notion of you protecting the ocean involving dynamite in a factory? Did I make that one up?
Again, we're going to the Philippines. There was a spate. Some of the things that Marcos' regime did were good. I mean, Imelda, the wife, who is now still big in the Philippines, she was big on. They weren't all bad. They did some good stuff. And one of the good things they did was to outlaw dynamite fishing. Once they had gone, dynamite fishing flourished, and it flourished all the way down from halfway down the Philippines all the way down to Papua New Guinea. And it's so easy to make this dynamite. It's made with fertilizer, and they started using bottles of whiskey and stuff like that, right? And then it got to gallons, like that big, and it was getting even bigger. So I had to put a stop to this.
Just quickly, sorry, just for those who wouldn't know, can you just explain what dynamite fishing is and why it's not a good thing?
You find a shoal of fish, generally tuna that are chasing sprats, and you calculate where the centre of that. You throw the dynamite into the sea, it explodes. You kill all the tuna, and then you pick them up, put them in the boat, and go home. Very simple, very effective, but there are secondary problems which are dramatic, and they are that the explosion will kill the coral directly under, never mind how deep it is. But any dolphin, turtle, porpoise that is within 700 meters of the explosion is going to suffer ear damage. If they are within 400 meters of the explosion, they're going to go deaf. A deaf dolphin cannot feed. To feed, it sends out a signal, and the signal comes back, and he catches the fish. If he's deaf, he cannot feed. So what happens, the rest of the pod, group of dolphins called a pod, they will feed him or her in the hope that his hearing will come back. If the hearing doesn't come back, the dolphin will commit suicide. It refuses to depend on the pod to be fed. It realizes its situation can't be changed, and it will wash itself up on the beach somewhere, or several of them together, and they will commit suicide. Which is why when you see on television, dolphins have washed them out. Oh, they've accidentally washed up on the beach. No, they've gone there to die. Which is when you see them, people who are trying to help them, drag them off the beach, turn them around and push them back to sea, they turn straight round and come straight back again, because they don't want to be in the sea. They are deaf. They want to die. Same with whales. With turtles, it's slightly different because they navigate with their ears. So if a turtle is within 400 meters of a dynamite explosion, it was going to lose at least one ear, which would mean it would now swim around in everlasting circles. It will never reach the island that it was going to lay its eggs on. It will go round and round in circles until it dies. So to stop dynamite fishing is a very, very important thing to do. Unfortunately, the British government and the European government testing their bombs and missiles and mines and stuff off Scotland or wherever, right, don't realise that when they explode that shit in the sea off the Firth of Forth or wherever, if there are dolphins or whales within 700 metres, this is what's going to happen. And it does happen, and occasionally you'll find them washed up in Wales or washed up somewhere, right? Because they've lost their hearing and they're deaf. So I tried to stop this. I went back to my original name, Arabone.
What do you mean by you went back? Like,
I couldn't call myself Tonz. I went back, called myself Arabone because that's who I was. And I made myself Dr. Arabone. Put up a website. It was the days of the GeoCities, you remember?
Yes, I do. Goodness me.
GeoCities. Yeah. And put up these websites, to stop this from happening. I contacted WWF. Save the whales, save the turtles, save the dolphins, save the seas, save this, save everything. And every time, half of them never replied. The other half who did replied by saying, thanks for your information. We're sorry at this time we can't help you, but if you would like to donate. I'm actually donating by trying to stop this. So it was a waste of time. So I went to the Congress of the Philippines, went to the Senator, went to the President, went to everybody I should. They sent the Marines. But it's so corrupt in the Philippines that before the Marines or police or anyone arrive, everybody knows what's happening. So when the Marines get there, everything's squeaky clean. There was no way to stop this happening. Plus, it was dynamite being made over a vast area, as I said, from the East Philippines all the way down to Papua New Guinea. Because all you needed was fertilizer. But you also need a detonator. And the detonators were all made in the same place, in one village on one island. So we got in touch with the People's Army. And we blew the factory up.
Of course you did.
The spotlights came out onto it. And that stopped the dynamite fishing and probably saved the lives of thousands and thousands of dolphins and turtles. other than donate, we did our job. I don't have a lot of stories of dolphins. I just have a lot of meetings with dolphins.